On my birthday, my daughter gave me a tablet. It was wrapped in silver paper, her hands trembling as she passed it to me, her eyes avoiding mine. I thought it was guilt. I thought it was love trying to find its way back after years of distance. I hugged her, told her it was perfect, and watched her exhale like she had been holding her breath for too long. 11 days later, the police took her away. They arrived before dawn. Heavy boots, sharp voices, the smell of cold metal and authority. I stood frozen in the hallway as they read her rights. She screamed my name like she was 5 years old again, like she had skinned her knee and needed her mother. But this time, I did not move. I simply watched. The tablet lay on the kitchen table, its screen glowing softly, as if it already knew it had done its job. 3 months earlier, my life had been stolen piece by piece. My daughter, whom I had raised alone after her father died, had become someone I no longer recognized. She forged my signature, emptied my savings, sold my jewelry, and transferred my house into her name while telling me it was just paperwork. When I confronted her, she laughed. Not nervously, not defensively. She laughed with confidence, with entitlement. "You're old," she said. "You don't need all that, I do." The next week, she put me in a small rented room and moved into my house with her boyfriend. She blocked my number. She told relatives I was unstable. She told neighbors I had given everything willingly and then changed my mind. I begged. Not for money. Not for the house. I begged for dignity. For truth. For my own child to look at me and remember who I was to her. She never did. That was when I decided I would not scream. I would not fight. I would not chase her. I would wait. I bought the tablet using borrowed money. I installed tracking software, recording tools, cloud backups. I wrapped it beautifully and gave it to her on my birthday, pretending it was a gift for myself that I wanted her to set up. She did. She always loved showing how clever she was. Over the next 11 days, I watched her steal again. I watched her boast to friends about how easy it was to manipulate me. I watched her plan insurance fraud using my name. I watched her boyfriend suggest ways to get rid of the old woman legally. I recorded it all. Every laugh, every threat, every crime. I sent the files to the police anonymously, along with documents proving the forged transfers and stolen funds. I did not attend the arrest. I did not celebrate. Revenge is not loud when it is real. It is quiet. It is clean. It is final. 3 months later they came to me. My daughter was out on bail. Her boyfriend had disappeared. Our relatives were suddenly polite again. They begged me to withdraw the complaint. They said she was young. They said people make mistakes. They said I was her mother and should forgive. She came herself one evening, thinner, trembling, eyes hollow. She fell to her knees. "You ruined my life," she cried. I looked at her calmly. "No, I gave you exactly what you gave me. Consequences." She begged me to take her back, to speak for her in court, to tell the judge it was a misunderstanding. I opened the door and stepped aside. "You already have a home," I said. "It's wherever truth puts you." She left broken, not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself more than the version of motherhood that requires silence and sacrifice without respect. The tablet was never a gift. It was a mirror, and she finally had to look at herself. She had trusted her daughter with the kind of faith only a mother can give, the kind that does not question, does not doubt, and does not prepare for betrayal. Everything she owned was open to her child, not because she was careless, but because love had taught her that family was safety. The house, the bank papers, the old jewelry box, even her signature were never guarded. They were shared in the quiet belief that blood could never turn into a weapon. That was her mistake, and her daughter knew it. At first, the theft was invisible. Small withdrawals explained as bills, documents signed for convenience, jewelry missing that was said to be kept safe. Each lie was wrapped in confidence, spoken with the ease of someone who knew they would not be questioned. The mother felt something was wrong, but denial is powerful when it is fueled by love. She wanted to believe her child would never hurt her. She wanted to believe that motherhood was protection enough. But betrayal grows when it is not challenged. Soon, the savings were gone. Years of sacrifice disappeared into shopping bags, parties, and a boyfriend who treated her daughter's cruelty like intelligence. The house, the one built from grief and resilience after her husband's death, was transferred without consent. When the mother discovered it, she did not scream. She did not collapse. She asked only one question: why? The answer was not guilt, it was arrogance. "You're old. You don't need it. I do." In that moment, the daughter did not see a mother. She saw an obstacle. She saw a resource that had outlived its usefulness. She saw weakness and decided to turn it into opportunity. That was the deepest theft of all. Not the money or the home, but the dignity of a woman who had given her everything. The daughter spread lies to protect herself. She told relatives her mother was confused. She told neighbors she had been given permission. She played the role of the responsible child caring for an unstable parent. Society believed her, because youth sounds convincing and age is often dismissed. The mother became invisible in her own story, being forced into a small rented room, stripped of her identity. She finally understood that betrayal from a stranger wounds the body, but betrayal from a child fractures the soul. It makes you question your entire life, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dream you delayed for their future. Yet in that devastation, something unbreakable formed. She realized her daughter had not just stolen from her financially, she had stolen with intention, with planning, and with pride. This was not a mistake, it was a decision, and decisions demand consequences. That understanding was the beginning of her power. She did not raise her voice, did not chase after her daughter, and did not beg the world to listen to her pain. Silence became her shield. Everyone expected her to break, to create scenes, to cry to relatives, to argue in court, to fight like a wounded animal. But she chose something far more dangerous than anger. She chose patience. Patience is powerful when it is guided by purpose, because it gives you time to see clearly while others expose themselves. Each night in that small rented room, she replayed every insult, every lie, every stolen moment of dignity. The walls were thin, the air heavy, and loneliness sat beside her like an unwanted guest. Still, she trained herself not to react. She understood that emotional battles are loud but rarely effective. They drain the victim and entertain the guilty. She refused to give her daughter that satisfaction. If justice was to come, it would not arrive through tears, but through certainty. She observed quietly. She listened carefully. She remembered everything. The way her daughter spoke when she believed no one was watching. The way she mocked her weakness. The way she bragged about control. These memories did not fill her with rage anymore. They sharpened her mind. She began to understand her daughter not as a child, but as a person who made choices, who calculated risk, and who believed herself untouchable. Patience gave her clarity. Clarity gave her control. She borrowed money, not in desperation, but with a plan. Every move was slow, deliberate, invisible. She did not let pain rush her. Pain wants quick release, power waits. She educated herself quietly, learning about technology, security, and evidence. Each step restored a piece of the confidence her daughter had tried to erase. While her daughter enjoyed stolen comfort, she was building something far stronger than revenge. She was building truth, and truth does not need anger to survive. It only needs time and proof. People mistook her calm for weakness. They believed she had accepted defeat. That misunderstanding became her advantage. The world stopped watching her, which allowed her to work freely. Silence is terrifying to those who are guilty, because it gives no clues, no warnings, no chances to prepare. She did not want to destroy her daughter. She wanted her to face herself. There is a difference. Destruction is emotional. Accountability is permanent. She understood that shouting would only make her look unstable, just as her daughter had claimed. But evidence would make her undeniable. In those quiet months, she transformed. The woman who had been displaced, humiliated, and dismissed rebuilt herself in stillness. She learned that strength does not always stand tall and roar. Sometimes it sits quietly in the dark, planning its return. Her silence was not surrender. Her patience was not weakness. They were weapons sharpened by wisdom, and when the time came, she would not need to explain herself. The truth would speak for her. The tablet was never chosen in haste. It was selected with care, because it had to look ordinary, harmless, even thoughtful. A simple object wrapped in kindness always lowers defenses faster than confrontation ever could. When she placed it in her daughter's hands, she did not see a gift being given. She saw a door opening, a door her daughter would walk through willingly, proudly, without fear, because she believed herself too clever to be caught. The tablet became a silent witness. It did not accuse, interrupt, or react. It only observed. Every word spoken near it, every plan whispered in confidence. Every laugh that carried cruelty was preserved without emotion. That was its power. It recorded truth without judgment, and truth does not bend to excuses. Her daughter used it freely. She boasted near it. She plotted near it. She trusted it like a toy, not realizing it was an archive of her own choices. In her mind, her mother was weak, outdated, and defeated. Technology was something she believed she controlled. That arrogance sealed her fate. People who think they are untouchable reveal themselves completely. The recordings were not dramatic. They did not need to be. They were simple, raw, and devastatingly honest. A casual joke about stealing, a proud confession about forging documents, a conversation about using her mother's identity for fraud, a cruel suggestion from her boyfriend about pushing her further into isolation. Each file stacked quietly, building a story that no lawyer could twist and no tears could erase. The tablet did what words never could. It proved intention. It proved awareness. It proved choice. Without it, everything would have been reduced to emotion, to a mother's pain against a daughter's denial. Society often questions the wounded and trusts the confident. But recordings do not tremble. They do not contradict themselves. They do not beg to be believed. They simply exist. The mother listened to them once, only once, not to relieve pain, but to confirm truth. After that, she stopped hearing her daughter's voice as a child's. It was the voice of a person fully responsible for her actions. That shift changed everything. Love no longer clouded justice. Memory no longer softened reality. The tablet became her armor. It protected her from being dismissed, manipulated, or rewritten out of her own story. For the first time since her life had been taken from her, she held something solid in her hands. Not hope, not anger. Proof. When she finally sent the files to the police, she did not write long explanations. She did not beg for sympathy. She let the recordings speak. They were calm. They were complete. They were undeniable. Revenge often burns hot and fast, leaving ashes and regret. But this was different. This was precise. The tablet did not destroy her daughter. It revealed her. It did not punish. It exposed. And exposure is far more powerful than rage, because it leaves no place to hide. The tablet was not a weapon made of hate. It was a mirror made of truth. When the police finally came, it was not with chaos or shouting, and not with the drama people imagine when they think of revenge. It was quiet, methodical, and controlled, just like everything the mother had planned. There was no satisfaction in her heart, no smile of victory, no thrill of watching her daughter fall. What she felt was something heavier and far more powerful: certainty. Justice does not rush. It arrives when truth has finished building itself. She was not driven by anger when she sent the evidence. Anger had passed long before that moment. Anger burns quickly and leaves nothing useful behind. What guided her was clarity. She understood that this was no longer about punishment, but about restoring balance. About proving that betrayal, even when it comes from blood, is still betrayal. About showing that motherhood does not mean accepting destruction in the name of love. When the officers acted, they were not responding to emotion. They were responding to proof. That difference mattered. It meant her story was no longer a hurt mother making accusations. It was a case built on facts, recordings, and undeniable intent. For once, she was not asking to be believed. She was being acknowledged. She did not attend the arrest. Not because she was afraid, but because she did not need to witness it. Real justice does not require an audience. It does not need applause or validation. The moment she handed over the evidence, her role was complete. The outcome was no longer personal. It was legal, structured, and impartial. That was her victory. Revenge is often messy. It comes with guilt, regret, and a cycle of hatred that never truly ends. But this was different. This was clean. It did not create another victim. It did not come from cruelty. It came from accountability. Her daughter was not being punished for being imperfect. She was being held responsible for choosing harm. That distinction freed the mother from guilt. She was not destroying her child's life. Her child had made decisions that shaped her own future. The mother had simply refused to protect those decisions from consequence. That refusal was not hatred. It was self-respect. For the first time since everything had been taken from her, she felt restored. Not powerful in the way dominance feels, but powerful in the way truth feels. Grounded, unshakable, whole. She had stood still while chaos surrounded her, and in that stillness, she had created order. The arrest was not the climax of revenge. It was the confirmation of integrity. It meant her pain had meaning. It meant her silence had purpose. It meant her patience had not been wasted. Justice arrived not as a storm, but as a quiet correction. And in that moment, she did not feel like a woman who had won. She felt like a woman who had finally been heard. When they came back to her, they did not come with strength or pride. They came with lowered voices, careful words, and eyes that could not hold hers for long. The same people who had once believed the daughter's lies now stood in her small room, asking her to save the one who had destroyed her life. They spoke of forgiveness as if it were an obligation, as if motherhood were a contract that required endless sacrifice, even when that sacrifice meant erasing herself. They said she was young. They said she was confused. They said mistakes happen. But she knew the difference between a mistake and a decision. A mistake is accidental. A decision is intentional. Her daughter had planned, manipulated, and acted without remorse. That was not confusion. That was choice. When her daughter finally came, she did not walk in as a child seeking comfort. She walked in as someone who feared consequences. Her body was thinner, her confidence broken, but her words were still about herself. She cried about her ruined future, her lost reputation, her shattered plans. Not once did she speak of the mother who had lost her home, her safety, her identity. "You ruined my life," she said. Those words revealed everything. Even now, even in desperation, she saw herself as the victim. The mother did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She did not remind her of sleepless nights, school fees, sacrifices, or love. She understood something crucial: forgiveness that protects wrongdoing is not compassion. It is permission. And she would no longer give permission for her own destruction. She chose self-respect over emotional blackmail. She chose truth over tradition. She chose dignity over fear of being called a bad mother. That was her greatest act of courage. Society praises mothers who suffer silently, who absorb pain for the sake of peace. But real strength is refusing to teach your child that cruelty has no cost. By not withdrawing the complaint, she was not abandoning her daughter. She was teaching her the only lesson that still mattered: accountability. She was saying, "I love you enough to let you face what you have done." That love was not soft. It was honest. She opened the door and stepped aside, not in anger, but in clarity. The message was simple. Home is not a place where harm is excused. Family is not a shield against responsibility. Love is not blind obedience to betrayal. In that moment, she reclaimed herself. She was no longer a victim trying to survive guilt. She was a woman who understood her worth. Her refusal was not revenge. It was liberation. Liberation from the idea that motherhood means endless forgiveness, even when forgiveness destroys you. Liberation from silence. Liberation from fear. And in choosing herself, she showed a strength that no apology could ever undo. The real revenge was never about watching her daughter suffer or proving she was right. It was about restoring a balance that had been broken when love was mistaken for weakness. Accountability became the answer, because accountability is the one thing that transforms pain into purpose. Without it, betrayal remains a wound. With it, betrayal becomes a lesson that reshapes character. For a long time, she had believed that being a mother meant protecting her child from everything, even from the consequences of their own actions. That belief had nearly destroyed her. It taught her daughter that love could be exploited, that forgiveness was guaranteed, and that power belonged to the one who took without shame. Breaking that pattern was not cruelty, it was responsibility. By allowing the law to take its course, she gave her daughter something she had never given before: truth without shelter. No excuses. No emotional rescue. No rewriting of events. Just reality standing in front of her, firm and unavoidable. This was not punishment for the sake of pain. This was correction for the sake of growth. Whether her daughter chose to learn from it or be hardened by it was no longer the mother's burden. Accountability is uncomfortable because it strips away illusion. It forces a person to face the version of themselves they avoided becoming. That is why it is powerful. It does not depend on anger. It does not fade with time. It follows quietly, asking one question again and again. Who are you choosing to be now? The mother understood that forgiveness without accountability is empty. It soothes the guilty and silences the wounded. But accountability gives dignity to both. It tells the victim, your pain mattered. It tells the wrongdoer, your choices mattered. That balance is what makes justice meaningful. She did not rejoice in her daughter's fall. She mourned the person her daughter could have been. But mourning does not require surrender. Love does not require self-destruction. And family does not mean living without boundaries. In choosing accountability, she broke a generational cycle. She refused to pass down the lesson that power belongs to those who manipulate and escape consequences. She replaced it with a stronger truth. Power belongs to those who face what they have done and change. Her revenge was quiet because it was not fueled by hatred. It was fueled by self-respect. She reclaimed her identity not by crushing another, but by standing firmly in truth. That is a victory that cannot be taken away. She no longer needed apologies. She no longer needed validation. She no longer needed to be seen as the good mother. She had become something far greater, A woman who chose integrity over comfort. A woman who chose dignity over fear. A woman who taught that even love must walk hand in hand with responsibility. That was the most powerful revenge of all.